Welcome back on Armour. Today I want to propose you a video about the magnetization of the Aggressors, or anyway any Mark 10 arm of the Space Marine, and the missile launcher magnetization and personalization about. And I want to remind you that the armor that you see are models that are from the Warhammer Conquest issue that you can find in the description, or anyway any easy to build Aggressor one. So it's a way to save a lot of money using such models to create the alternative version. Obviously, we'll go to analyze better them, and remember that now as it is, you can have even more ones available modifying the head, so we'll see a bit also about that part. Now we can begin to talk about the missile launcher. The one of the left is the one that I taken the image original one about from the Tiny Bits site, so that had image of the original one. The one on the right, it's my first experiment about trying to create my one. I taken the center part of my train from the central part that I removed from my experiment to create a jumped Chaplain that you can find in the playlist about, because I created a video about some time ago, and I taken that part to create the middle part of the model. The lateral part are taken from clones of the missile launcher of Flagstorm of the Repulsor, because the weapon was the same, so I need only to find something good to place in the middle to make the part that it was combining them and put them on the mod itself. But I didn't like the center part, and casually I noticed that because I was cloning the shoulder pads for Mephisto, because I needed to monetize the mod and so on for my project about Mephisto itself, a new one, the Primaris, that you can find the box in the description. I noticed that they were quite interesting as size to take note. So I tried to put side by side the missile launch and the shoulder pads that of the Mephisto Primaris and the original project that I had, and I've seen something that I really liked. So I taken some patafix and tried the effect on the models themselves to have a comparison, and sincerely I liked a lot the result. So I had to pay attention anyway, because I needed the front but also the back to be quite interesting. So I compared the two and I thought that it was better, much better, the green one. And so I glued together the parts and I realized anyway two ones, because I needed to make a differentiation about the sergeant eventual of the unit, or anyway if I had more than one unit about the units themselves. So I tried to verify if it was fit on the mod itself, so that I was sure that I was able to find the correct position that it was able to put on such options. So I needed to make some experiment, but I thought that the final effect was quite nice. And here we can see the effect on the model from the front part and from the back part, because I needed to find if there were some gaps and so on that had to fill, adjust eventually and so on, and sincerely I find it quite awesome. I needed a bit of them of different types, so I decided to take these parts. Obviously you can choose the one that you prefer if you have a different shoulder pads that you like a symbol, or you want to create your own one. These then you can modify and so on. It's up to you to decide how you want to personalize them, but I think that the idea is really quite nice. And then I painted them so to know how it was the final effect on the models. So we can see from the front, from the back, the different shoe types from the front and from the back themselves. And then I needed to magnetize the parts, so I taken the backpack of the model and I made some experiments. So I made some drill to understand where it was the right place to put the magnets in. So I had to make some drill and try to verify the right place. Anyway, not worry about the mistake, you simply take a bit of green stuff and correct the hole and adjust the design, so no worry at all about this. And after I had magnetized the backpack, I had to magnetize the missile launcher itself. And about this, my first experiment was to glue directly the magnet on the missile launcher itself, but I found that it was not quite reliable as connection, as strength, so I decided to take another route. And so I decided to use the green stuff itself as a sort of filler to connect the magnet to the part of the missile launcher itself, so that it was more stable and it was having a better grip of the two parts, so that it was more stable the magnet inside the missile launcher. But a notice about such step, it's that you have to pay attention because the model, I want to remind you, has a sort of head from the armor, so you have to pay attention because the part of the missile launch has to go on it. So in such a way you have to make that the green stuff itself doesn't go to touch, so you have to have a bit of control so that it keep the grab on the magnet, but it doesn't go to touch the armor itself after. So you have to pay a bit of attention about the control on the volume of the green stuff itself on the missile launcher. And here we can find the final part about such result, so about having such monetization on the aggressors. Obviously you can perfect it, you can choose other icons and so on, so it's up to you decide how to develop such project. But the final effect, I think that it's quite good. Obviously then you can cover eventually the magnet on the backpack and so on, it's up to you decide how you want to do. And now we only need an army of aggressors to bring war to Xenos and the heretics. But first, maybe it's better to go to see how also to monetize the body of the aggressors itself. So I taken the models, new ones to monetize and old ones that have yet monetized, so to make you see the difference and how I proceed to make such monetizing. First thing to talk about, it's about the head. In fact, on the back of such models there is a pin that goes inside the head. So if your idea is to use such models for other types that are the heavy intercessor ones or other options that are available from the Conquest Space Marine, remember that you have to remove this one and eventually monetize the head itself so that you can take off and put inside another one. So this is quite important in the way that you are interested to use such models, because this is an important note to think about. If you're not interested, you simply assemble everything, but remember that you have to assemble after that you paint the around here, because if you're going to paint then after, you have some problems about being able to reach the different side of such hole. In the original model there is a pin about the arms that I converted in magnets. About this I want to remind you that I used the same that I use usually for my Marines and Terminators, so a 242mm one inside the body of the Marine and a 242mm one inside the arm itself. Here it's up to you to decide how big it can be. Sincerely, I find myself good and it makes compatible with all the other options that I can have. The arms of such aggressors are the same as size as a Terminator one. So I think that it's correct to use the same size of magnet, and I found no problem about the magnet force about such option. In the description anyway you can find the videos about the vessels of the magnetizing and about how I magnetize the Marines and the Terminators, so that you can find my way to do such work. Then there is the part about the backhand, because it changes different type of weapons for such models. In this case I decided not to go to monetize this, but keep a mechanic backhand remover and putting on, because I haven't found it quite good to do. Anyway, if you are going to see that the mechanic part is going to make some problems, because you have, for example, different ways to convert and so on, because you only need to change this part. Not worry, you simply have to put a magnet in each part of this so that you keep the parts together. Sincerely, I have not found it necessary, so I have not proceeded about such option, but still there is eventually this way. This decision has been based because when I built my models I had only two versions of the aggressors available, so one had different flavors, the other one had the Requiem, but associated to this last one they were the missile launcher, so I decided to use the missile launcher to distinguish which version of the aggressors was, so simply had to put the missile launcher on to decide if it was one version of the aggressor or the other one. So in this case I decided to use such way to make one or the other, and so the back palm of the hands of the model, it was not so important. The aggressors available are 3 and each one is having only the backpack that is different. So about the model, in the part of the back, I put a simply 342mm one drilling inside the model itself, removing the pin itself. And what is important is the part instead about the one that goes in the backpack. In the case of the first model that we take note, it's a 342mm one that goes directly glue on the one that we have seen inside this hole, that it was the pin going inside. You can eventually drill a bit inside this hole, but simply put the magnet on this and you are perfect. Eventually you can also switch from the part that are related about the wires to the flames and the part about the cartridge for the bolters. In this case it's up to you. Simply you have to cut the part that are the round parts on the backpack and magnetize that part. Sincerely I don't find it useful, but anyway, if you are really interested about, you can cut that part, pay attention, then make the magnets inside so that you can simply attach and remove the ones that you are interested about. You only need magnets of 242mm ones to take everything in position if you are needing, but sincerely I choose another way to have the distinguish of the different models about the aggressors. And then we had the second and third model that has a closest part related about the pin and the backpack itself. So for the back of the models I use the same choose of the other models. About instead the backpack, it's up to you decide if to use a 341mm one or even bigger to put on the parts that we can see, the round one, or to drill a bit inside the part of the backpack, this hole that we see inside, at the center where the pin was inserted, and make that it make the space to put inside a 342mm one. It's up to you decide which version you prefer to choose to have such magnetization for such model. Another way to distinguish the squads is to use different type of bases so that you can integrate everything together, and for example use some type of ruins and so on to distinguish, for example, the sergeant or so on, or using a different ways the part about the missile launchers. The part about the bases come useful when you use different rules, and instead the part about the missile launchers can be used for different combinations. So it's up to you decide when to apply one or the other, or simply use to create a different mix but at the same time having the same theme. And so we can see the models from the beginning and the assembled painted Blood Angels one. I really load such models, so I decided to create really almost a legion of them, because I want to deploy a lot of such models, so I decided to bring quite a lot of them, as you can see. From Dino Mode it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.